Alrighty. Race to World First been happening. Obviously, they killed Broodtwister, and there's a little bit of brown in there, right? A little bit of some brown bars sitting in there. Interesting stuff. And you might also look at stuff like this and go, oh, well, Smack's not doing so as well as in this. This is something that I find very interesting, and this is where top-level guilds make a difference compared to everybody else. Because you could look at this and go, wow, Smack just didn't perform as well as Riku and Boomy did. But you have to look at what they do and how they do it, and why Smack might not be doing as much overall damage as them. But what is he doing, right? That's important, which I will show you in a second, because I find it interesting. But Warrior has been doing very, very, very well in the race. If you look at the world first kills for Liquid specifically, we have 2 Warriors here, 3 Warriors here, which why you're probably seeing so many Warriors is that, I mean, it could be the same for the Frosty case, but essentially there's a lot of good plate tier slots that drop off these bosses. So it makes sense to have additional plate classes that you might want to play in here so they can catalyze those and have very high level primary stat tier slots. Yep. And then they went go to Silk Ram. They even brought it down to 1 warrior here, where someone you're probably looking at maybe one person's being focused for the Zenith, which is the warrior. There's two dragons here, but you could say, oh, well, they're trying to spread out, make sure they... Essentially, it's very valuable for loot, especially this early mythic loot. But the other thing to note is they killed all of these bosses in one pull. These bosses, in terms of like how much time they had to put into these, they probably prepped a good amount. But you don't really see a lot of warriors here. Well, you see some warriors, but you don't. But these comps don't really matter, is what I'm trying to say. These comps are to get better gear. And when you get to Broodtwister is when you see that gear really become more impactful and more pronounced. And that's really what we're going to talk about, because all of these 4 bosses fell over, so I'm not really going to consider them or talk about them. I guess I'll glaze over them early, but it's mainly talking about why is Warrior, specifically Fury Warrior, so good this tier? Why do we receive 2 nerfs already? Something I did find funny as well is I got... Even so, in this video, right, I posted this video about... I posted essentially about, oh, well, Fury got nerfed. Again, that sucks. Because one of my... I think about the whole game, not just Raid, because I like doing Mythic Plus, and one of the things I like to talk about as far as Mythic Plus is concerned is you look at the amount of utility a class like Warrior has versus everybody else, and everybody else has better utility while doing better damage than Warrior in Mythic Plus, and you go, hey man, what the fuck, even though we're performing really well in Raid, because it's kind of 2 different games in a sense. So when I look at the overall, I go, oh, what about this? What about Mythic Plus? What about that? I also received some very funny comments, like, good thing you're not in charge. Fury's already topping DPS on every single encounter in the game right now. What do you mean 3% is not warranted? On single target, Fury's not. Arms is actually far, far better on single target than Fury. But it's just really funny that I got these comments. I mean, obviously, Fury is doing good, right? Like, Fury is doing good. You know what I mean? Fury's doing good. But you have to understand why it's doing well in the raid and what it is doing to really kind of think about this shit. But what Fury does well is burst AoE. And burst AoE is very, very important on a couple bosses. Rashnan, obviously, it died quickly, but burst AoE is still very valuable to kill all the ads quickly, so it's not a problem. Broodtwister has so many ads. On Broodtwister Mythic, there's a lot of ads that are also doubled up. On Heroic, there's just 1 egg here, but on Mythic, there's 2 eggs here. Right? So having all of this burst AoE for this is so, so valuable. And that's why you have classes like... Sorry, I don't need that. But that's why you're seeing a lot of Fury Warriors. One other thing that's, I think, flown under the radar, because a lot of people just go, damage, damage, damage. Fury Warriors are so tanky, man. They are so tanky. They heal themselves so much. And interestingly enough, when they did the pass on nerfing like leech and avoidance and stuff like that, arms got hit. Their seasoned soldier passive for arms that gave them 10% passive avoidance got nerfed to 5%. DH's leech got nerfed. I mean, even in the Fear Warrior tree, our leech got nerfed as well to a lower percentage. But they did not nerf War Paint, which is while we are in Rage, we take 10% reduced damage. And that is something that I feel like kind of went under the radar for a lot of people, where a lot of these overall DRs and survivability factors got lowered for a lot of classes, but Warriors kept theirs. Fury kept that. So we are absolutely tanky as shit. And if we're taking a lot of damage and we need to live, if you pop Enrage Regeneration while Blade Storming, it's essentially a full heal. Obviously, you don't want to use it. There's emergency situations for it, and you'd rather use it for the damage reduction so you're not dying to a really big hit. But I really think it has, people keep talking about damage, but it has been way understated about how tanky Fury is and how much it passively heals itself, and having Spell Reflect as a damage reduction against big AoE hits, when almost all the big AoE hits in the game are pretty much just magic damage. And we just have a 25% DR on it almost every single time. So I know Fury is tanky, right? I know Fury is tanky, but I don't think it's been stated how tanky this class gets in Raid. It is incredible how much you just get to live and ignore shit that other classes have to deal with. But looking into why you'd play so many and why burst AoE is important, let's look at the actual first 50 seconds of this fight, because it's interesting how it's played. Because you'll go into this fight and you have Boomy Turbo here. Sorry, I need that full screen thing to go away. You have Boomy Turbo here. He is playing Fury. Smacked and Riku, all playing Fury. But you'll notice that Boomy and Riku, which coincidentally at the end of the fight have the higher overall, but you'll notice that they send their cooldowns, they send their Blade Storm and everything. Or we'll go back to the actual start of the fight so you can see it. So they charge in, do their thing, and you can see Riku is spinning, and you can see Boomy is spinning. Smacked is not spinning. So in terms of how they strategize this boss, they actually had him hold his cooldowns for this first set of ads. Because you can see there have 2 sets of Gahunis in here, 2 worms, and then they have 3 tank spiders. This is devilish. Where is actually, no, which one is this? Oh, so they have 3 sets of Gahunis, 2 tank spiders, and a worm. Sorry. And 2 worms. But you'll notice that they're doing pretty good damage. Everything's going well. We'll speed up a little bit to where we get to the ads. So the ads are coming out, and now you'll see Smacked shoot up the meter because they have deemed him to save all of his cooldowns for this ad set. See, there he is. And they've probably also hit him with the Aug Evoker buff during this boosted damage phase because it's very important. You've also noticed that the other Frost DK is also not up here because it's about a 50-second interval between when you get the circles and when the ad spawns. See, we'll go up another 50 seconds. I'm pausing. 10, 20, 30, 40. Yeah. So see another 50 seconds. Now you're probably about to see, it's about 1:30 into the fight. You're probably about to see Pumpy rise here because he's probably saved his big cooldown for this window, if I've had to guess. So you might have a warrior, you might have the Frost DK going. Yeah, the other warriors are here. Maybe he popped his on pole and then he's waiting for the 2-minute window. So this is the new 2-minute ad window, right? It's a new 2-minute ad window. Let's see if he rises here. Yup, there he goes. Whee! Up and up he goes. But that's what I find very interesting in how you actually strategize around these bosses, because a lot of people would just look at this, right? They look at this, they look at the end of the fight, and they would say, oh, Smacked isn't doing as well. But in fact, he's doing what he's supposed to. He's doing his job. He's holding his cooldowns, and it allows them to offset their cooldowns in these classes with big burst AoE. It allows them to offset all of this and be able to do this ad set and that ad set and this ad set, right? So I find it really interesting that how they've strategized around this boss is around essentially the warrior's big AoE cooldowns because of how much burst AoE it has and how fast you need the ads to die. Specifically, actually, the little Gahuni ads are the largest problem in the fight, these little parasites, because if they get out of control, they do their infest and they multiply. And it's just the moment you're not able to kill these things inside a cooldown window, it's over. Which is why I don't know their exact like strat on how they like chunk these things. But I find it really interesting how they actually misalign their cooldowns and aren't using them like on the opener and they aren't using it on here. Because what you'll see from a lot of even like cutting edge players, like mythic cutting edge players, is they would see something like that, right? And they're just like, no, I'm going to use my stuff on cooldown. But you have to do your job to kill the boss. That's how solving these puzzles work. You have to do what you're supposed to, and what they needed was that amount of burst AoE about 45-50 seconds into the boss. So they let the other warriors go cooldown, and then smacked uses cooldowns later on for that first ad set. And then they've probably been rotating their cooldowns between different ad sets to make sure, especially these little Gahunis, die. The spiders and the worms will die over time. They have kicks. They just kind of sit there. They're more like the worms especially are more maintenance mobs where they're like, hey, you gotta pay attention to me. Ooh, you gotta pay attention to me. I'm gonna do an AoE, right? They don't do anything else, but they're like, gotta pay attention. So what it essentially does is give everybody their each individual jobs. But that's not really specific towards warrior. But I just find it very interesting how they have broken up the cooldowns in this fight and how they have designated things, because that is the interesting, that is a little puzzle. That is the puzzle piece of the game. The other thing that I find pretty funny too is this VOD used to have their Nexus Princess poles on it, and they went back and cut the entire Nexus Princess part. The entire Nexus Princess part is gone. Maybe probably because they want to have as little info for Echo as possible. Maybe their main channels might have some of that stuff up as well. I don't know if they might get chopped as well, but I find that pretty funny. I mean, they did it for obvious reasons, but yeah, Warrior is doing very, very well. Do I think they're going to have triple Warrior here? I don't know. But the other thing, like I said, because Warrior is so tanky innately, and you have a lot of ways to just live, especially in a boss like Nexus Princess, where you're playing the fight with 90% health. Because if you go below 10%, she instantly kills you. So you only have 90% health, so classes that are very, very tanky in their own right are pretty valuable. Looking at this comp, I don't know if this is the comp they're gonna go with, right? I'm not sure. Honestly, in terms of single target damage, I could maybe see like the mages. Obviously, mages are really good single target. I could maybe see another BM Hunter. One of the reasons why I think you might drop a warrior, maybe take another BM Hunter, is with the changes, BM Hunter is actually pretty tanky. On top of just being able to be spread out and being able to hit the boss all the time is pretty valuable, right? It's very valuable just to be able to actually hit the boss. Because there's a lot of moving, a lot of running. If things get out of control at all, it becomes a really big issue for melee to hit this boss. So I feel like we might be seeing a third BM Hunter in here. I could be wrong, but this boss is not fun for melee. So I feel like we might be seeing another one. But for the melee that are in this fight, Warrior's definitely one that is tanky enough to be able to do this fight well. And you actually have, through Ignore Pain, a decent amount of an extra defensive layer during the intermission phases to be able to live. Especially if you get one of those lines, you can pop Spell Reflect and Ignore Pain at the same time, gain a lot of additional effective health. So we're probably going to see honestly, I'd say maybe 2 warriors. I don't know about 3. 3 feels like a little too much. But who knows? I'm not a Race to World First guy. I don't have what they have on the docket there. But to me, this doesn't feel like their ending comp. I do feel like a 3rd BM Hunter is probably going to be pretty juicy. But that is just me yapping about Race to World First stuff. Because I like Race to World First stuff, and I find especially like how Smacked started this fight very, very interesting. I like that kind of thing. This video was very rambly and longer than I meant it to be, so apologies on that. But I mean, do I need to apologize? Fuck it, dude. I hope you enjoyed it as well, and I hope you keep enjoying the race. If there's more stuff I feel like talking about, which obviously there's probably going to be, this tier has been super, super, like, way difficult. I was not expecting to see the Race World First Guild walk in, one pull, wall, instantly. We're not even at Silken Court, right? We're not even at Silken Court, and we're already hitting some solid walls. There's a lot of optimization to do, obviously, from a boss like 614, 615, from Rashawn to Broodtwister, where they finally committed a lot of their resources to their characters, right? They obviously got a lot of eye level in here by gearing up their dudes, which was needed to kill this boss, a very gear-intensive boss. But this is something that'll be interesting for later guilds, where Broodtwister is actually probably going to be way, way easier when most guilds get to it. I don't even know if it's going to need to be nerfed, because it feels like they did a lot of optimization and damage. But when we have that 3% scaling buff that goes up 24%, we're walking in there not at like 620, we're walking in there at like 630, you know, depending on the guild you're in, you might be walking in there when you kill it at like 632, 635, winning 15 item levels over these guys, plus you're getting that increased damage and health. Broodtwister is a great boss for Race to World First, and I think it's actually going to be a really great boss for later guilds getting to it as well. The same thing with Nexus Princess. Yeah, these bosses have a lot of health. Yeah, they're pretty hard, but we're going to be getting there, or most people are going to be getting there at an item level relatively higher. Or killing it at an item level way relatively higher than what you're seeing here. Which is why I find this very, very interesting. And I am very interested to see what kind of compositions they decide to run tomorrow. I do think because of the tankiness that Warriors probably still going to be pretty valuable. I could probably see 2 Warriors. They ran double. Like, I feel like range is just so value on this fight, you know? I could see negative Warrior plus BM Hunter for sure. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they do. I am looking forward to their continued progression. And I just rambled for another like 4 minutes. Yep. It is 6 a.m. I should go to bed. Yep. All right. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy Warrior stuff as much as I do. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.